The Husqvarna Viking Ruffler is an amazing foot. Now, it might look a little complex or intimidating, but if we break this down into 3 easy adjustments, it will make sense and will handle all weights of fabric. So lightweight fabrics, home deck fabrics, anything that you want to put through the ruffler, it will handle. Double weights, single weights, one layer gathered to another, and I'm going to show you how. So first off, there is a couple, 3 things I want to point out. Number 1, there is a blade that actually is going to help scoop the fabric to the needle. Now, depending on how you have it adjusted, it will push more or less fabric to the needle to make the pleat or ruffle. And that's done actually with this screw. Right now I have it pulled out quite a ways, so it's going to make gentle ruffles here. So let's go ahead and just start to stitch, and you'll see that it actually pushes the fabric to the needle, making a little pleat. Now notice it is doing it on every single stitch. Now, depending on what my stitch length is, that's the second point. If the stitch length is longer, that pleat is going to be spread out a little bit more, so not so piled up on top of each other there. So see how it'll kind of be a little gentler. So if I went ahead and take a look at the third option, and that's right up here. Right now there's a 1, a 6, and a 12, and right now it's on the 1, meaning it's gathering every single stitch. So if I go ahead and set it to 6, you're going to see that it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a pleat. Now, because we have the screw so far unscrewed, that pleat is very, very gentle. So if we go ahead and tighten that up, we're going to find that pleat will increase. Again, it does depend on what your stitch length is for the final result. So here we go, 1, 2, 3, and a little bigger pleat there. If I shorten the stitch length, those pleats will be brought closer together. Once again, I always like to hem my edge before I gather, if I have that choice, because then that way I don't have to try to open it up and hem it up. There's also the 12, which would spread it out even more. Again, depending on your stitch length, that could be increased or moved apart or brought closer together depending on your final look. Always run a sample through your ruffler, and then you'll know what the ratio is. Next, I'm going to show you how you can ruffle one piece of fabric onto a base fabric. This time, the base fabric is going underneath the ruffler completely, so it's not going into the little place where the bite is taken. This piece you want ruffled, we're going to slide down and then align the 2 pieces up. As I start to stitch, and right now I have it set on the 6 up here, so it's going to do every 6 stitch and then do a little pleat. Really, all I'm watching is over here on this side, keeping my edges close and even together. Isn't that absolutely perfect? Now, to create that little pleated flange in the pillow, first off, take your fabric and fold it wrong sides together and run a small basting stitch along these edges. That way those edges won't kind of slip apart. They'll be held while it's going through the ruffler. Next, turn that screw all the way in. That's going to make for a very deep pleat. That's what you're going to set it on if you have heavy fabrics as well. You're going to set it to the highest setting that it will go. Take the piece of fabric, slide it all the way down. I have it set at 6 up here at the top, and you'll see that as it starts to stitch, it will take the little pleats. When you're done, all you need to do is go to the ironing board and press these flat. With a little steam, I'd pin at both ends here and steam these flat, and that way when you go to sew it into your finished project, it has a memory of where those pleats need to be. One last thing that the ruffler will do, you can take a strip of fabric that is a bias cut, so those edges aren't going to unravel after it's used, and actually ruffle right down the middle. you can apply this piece onto anything, including this quilt. Whether it's a little girl's dress you're ruffling, a fabric that is of a home dec weight that's doubled up, or like the quilt that's right behind me where they've added ruffles after the quilt has been quilted, using the bias strip fabric and then ruffling it and then applying it to the quilt, this is one accessory that you won't want to be without.